Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Chavov Amud Aleph. 3 lines from the bottom. After the Gemara discusses various fuels that can be used for one's Ner Shel Shabbos, one of the opinions was Rabbi Yishmael, who said, Kol hayotzin min ha'etz ein malikin boy. Anything that goes out from the tree, meaning sap, cannot be used as one fuel for Ner Shabbos because it doesn't draw into the wick very well. Now the Gemara diverts to a whole different subject called Tumas Begodim, whether a beged, and what type of beged, and what is the shear, the amount that a beged can mekabel tuma. Says the Gemara, Tanya, bring a brisa. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Kol hayotzei min ha'etz. Anything that goes out from the tree. Ein boy mishum sholosh al sholosh. It does not have the shear requirement of sholosh al sholosh etzbos. An etzba refers to the middle of the gudal. So 3 etzbos, al sholosh etzbos, is the required amount, which does not pertain to anything that goes out from the tree, for example, like cotton, and therefore it's not susceptible to tumah. Whereby umesachachim bo, you can use it for your schach because the requirements of schach on sukkah is aleph, that is gidulei min hakarka, grows from the ground, beis, that it's something that is talush, detached from the ground, and gimel, that it's something that's not mekabel tuma. So therefore all of these things, for example cotton, can be used for your schach on sukkis. Chutz mi pishtan. The exception to this rule is pishtan, even though pishtan does go out from the 8s. Nonetheless, it does have the requirement of sholosh al sholosh, whereby it is susceptible to tuma. That is the statement of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Omar Abaye says, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, v'tana de Rabbi Yishmael, Omar davar echad. He said the same thing as Tana de Rabbi Yishmael, the Tana that taught in the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Yishmael. And that's indeed his source. What was said? Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Hoda Omar, like we just said before. Tana de Rabbi Yishmael, Mahi. What is the statement of the Tana in the house, in the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Yishmael? The Tani, Rabbi Yishmael, Hoyil v'ne'emru begodim b'Torah stam. Since the Torah, when it speaks about begodim, it doesn't specify. In places like Shrotzim, when it talks about begodim in regards to maskeri, or even Gabei Tzitzis, it says al kanfei bigdeihem. It doesn't specify what type of beged, and therefore it says lashon stam. Upireit lecha kasuv be'echamen. But in one place it does specify in regards to tumas negoim. There it does specify in the Torah what type of beged: tzemer upishtim, wool and flax. And therefore the Gemara, according to Abaye, says that the same opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar is this opinion over here. In other words, the source of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar was to say that, in fact, the only thing that is susceptible by Tumah is indeed, he said flax, but huadin also is true when it comes to wool. Only we're talking about being misachech, putting schach on a sukkah, so he mentioned something that is gidulim min hakarka, but the truth is, whether it's semer or pishtim, he holds that they will have the gimel al gimel etzbos requirement, whereby they are going to then mikabel tuma. Rava now argues on Abaye and says that indeed there are 2 different opinions. Rava Omar, shloisha al shloisha b'shar begodim, ike benayu. When there are shloisha al shloisha tfachim, then there's a difference between the 2 opinions. In other words, the first opinion that we mentioned, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, only says gimal etzbos, says Rava. And therefore he's emphasizing only that shear, that minimum shear, is not sufficient for shar begodim, for example, like cotton. But if it was shloisha al shloisha tefachim, then even shar begodim, like cotton, would be susceptible to tumah. As follows: the Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar islay, he holds that it is mekabel tumah. L'tan de Rabbi Yishmael leslay, whereas Tan de Rabbi Yishmael, he holds nothing doing. So long as it's not tzemer upishtim, then it's not mekabel tuma, no matter how big the beged is. Now the Gemara goes into the source where we know indeed that shalosh al shalosh etzbos is mekabel tum by semer upishtim. The kuli alma mi hasholosh al sholosh b'semer upishtim. Mitame b'negoim minolan. From where do we know that gimel etzbos is mekabel tuma for tzemer and pishtim? The Tanya, for it says in a brayso, beged, ainli ella beged. I only know a regular sized beged. Sholosh al sholosh minayin. If it's just gimel etzbos minayin, from where do we know? What's the source? Says the brayso Talmud Lomer viha beged. It doesn't just say ha beged, it says viha beged, coming to include even the small shiur of gimel al gimel etzbos. Ask the Gemara ve'ema l'rabois shloisha al shloisha. Maybe this drasha veha beged comes to include shloisha al shloisha tfachim, and that is what's susceptible to tumah, but not gimel etzbos. The Gemara says, Lav kal v'chomeru, is it not a kal v'chomer that we would know shlosha al shlosha tfachim? After all, hashish shesi va'erev mitame, shlosha al shlosha miboy. In regards to tumas negoim, it says that in the pasuk, shesi va'erev is mekabel tuma. That means even shesi, the strings that run across horizontally, and those strings that run across vertically through those strings, they themselves are mekabel tumas negoim. So then certainly a shear of shlosha tfachim will become tuma. Ask the Gemara the obvious question: Ihochi sholosh al sholosh nami less say bakal b'chomer. Then 3 al 3 etzbos then would also be learned from a kal v'chomer. Again, if shesi va'erev is mekabel tuma in regards to tumas negoim, then so too certainly then shalosh al shalosh etzbos. Ela shloisha al shloisha dechazu bein la'ashim bein la'anim osi b'kal v'chomer. Shalosh al shalosh la'anim hu dechazin la'ashim lo chazin lo osi b'kal v'chomer. The Gemara makes the following chiluk. When do we learn the kal v'chomer? That's when we're talking about something that's big enough, that's chashuv enough, not just for an ani, but also for an ashir. And there we can make a kal v'chomer from shesi to shlosh al shlosh tfachim. But shalosh al shalosh etzbos is too small. It's only going to be relevant for an ani, but not for an asher, and therefore we do not make a kal v'chomer. Ask the Gemara taima, and then the Gemara therefore concludes taima deksiva kro. Only because the reason that it's written the pasuk v'habeged, did we know that shlosh al shlosh etzbos is considered to be mekabel tuma for tzemer and fishtim. Holokasve kro lo gamrina become. Had it not been for the pasuk of v'habeged, we would not know that tzemer and fishtim are mekabel tuma at the shear of gimel al gimel etzbos. Ask the Gemara challenging the following: Ve'emo l'rabois shlosha shlosha b'shar begodim. Maybe indeed v'habeged comes to include shlosha al shlosha tfachim with shar begodim, like cotton. Omar kro, the pasuk says beged semer upishtim. Beged semer upishtim in midi achrin aloi. Since the pasuk says specifically a beged of wool or flax, then it's specifically that and not any other substance. Ve'ema, ask the Gemara, ki imut misholosh al sholosh, avashlosh al shlosh mitame. Maybe then it's coming to exclude gimel al gimel etzbos, but gimel shlosh al shlosh tfachim is going to mekabel tuma, and therefore once again v'habeged comes to say shlosha al shlosha, but not gimel al gimel. Says the Gemara, trei mi'ute ksive. There are two different mi'utim coming to then exclude shar begodim. Beged tzemer oy pishtim. That's one pasuk that we have in addition to the previous pasuk that we brought also. So there are two psukim that emphasize beged tzemer upishtim. The one that we brought before is beged tzemer upishtim, and that's in Vayikra Perek Yud Gimel. And we have another pasuk also in the same parak, but a different pasuk, beged tzemer upishtim. Chal le'meute misholosh al sholosh. One to exclude shalosh al shalosh etzbos, that any other begadim cannot be then sesedo betuma, and then shlosh al shlosh is also excluded, even if it's bigger, the size of shlosh al shlosh tefachim, if it's another beged other than tzemer upishtim.